And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, August 27th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain, and many of the stories we read here you can also find at our website at IndianCountryNews.com, and here are some of those stories for the day. Stanley Crooks, the chairman of the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community for the last two decades, passed away on Saturday. He was 70 years old. A statement from the tribe said Crooks passed away from natural causes but did not go into any more details. Quote, Chairman Crooks was a leader in every sense of the word. Tribal Vice Chairman Charlie Vigg said in a statement, I am honored to have worked with Stanley over the last 20 years. We join with his family, friends, and all those who were privileged to know Chairman Crooks in mourning his passing. Crooks, who became the tribe's chairman in 1992, was a national figure in Indian country, serving as the chairman of the Minnesota Indian Gaming Association for many years and the tribe's representative to the National Indian Gaming Association, as well as to the National Congress of American Indians. According to constitutional procedures that governs the community, Vigg will succeed Crooks. Secretary-Treasurer Keith B. Anderson will now assume the office of Vice Chairman, and a tribal election will be held soon to fill Anderson's office. Crooks is survived by his wife Cheryl and his two daughters. Funeral arrangements were pending on this day. Canadian communities are reaffirming their commitment to protect the Great Lakes from nuclear waste shipments despite new challenges from the federal government's budget bill. Last week, Sierra Club Canada and the Canadian Environmental Law Association announced that they were withdrawing their application for judicial review of permits which allowed Bruce Power to ship nuclear waste to Sweden. In April of 2010, Bruce Power applied for permits with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, also known as the CNSC, to ship nuclear waste through the Great Lakes to a treatment facility in Sweden. Bruce Power contracted Swedish company Studsvik to decontaminate the radioactive waste and sell the scrap metal back into the open markets. The plan threatened to contaminate the drinking water of Owen Sound and other communities around the Great Lakes, and despite the opposition of city mayors, U.S. senators, First Nation communities, residents, and environmental and other groups, the CNSC issued transport permits, which have since expired. The budget bill contains new provisions that will allow the company to do this again with less regulation. Quote, the Anishinaabe Nation chiefs in Assembly still stand united and oppose any proposals or applications with the intent to export nuclear waste or radioactive contaminated equipment to other provinces or countries by either land or water, says Anishinaabe Nation Grand Council Chief Patrick Widase Madabi. The planned auction of nearly 2,000 acres of land in South Dakota's picturesome Black Hills that was considered sacred by the Lakota, or the Great Sioux Nation, has been canceled, though it wasn't immediately clear why. Brock Auction Company had planned to auction the 5 tracts of land owned by local residents Leonard and Margaret Reynolds this last Saturday. Saturday, August 25th, but a message on the auction house's website last week said that it had been canceled at the landowner's direction. The auction house and Margaret Reynolds declined comment, and tribal officials were left wondering exactly what happened. Tribes of the Great Sioux Nation consider the site key to their creation story and are trying to purchase the land, which they call Pashle, saying that they fear the new owners will develop it. The property, which spans about 1,942 acres of pristine prairie grass, is the only sacred site on private land currently outside Sioux Nation control. The Rosebud Sioux, whose reservation is amongst the closest to the land, has allocated $1.3 million toward trying to purchase the property, though tribal officials fear the selling price could be between $6 and $10 million. The head of Rhode Island's Narragansett tribe, seeking a greater share of casino gambling in the state, has met with Governor Lincoln Chafee. The Providence Journal reports that Chief Sachem Matthew Thomas and Chafee met at the State House for about 20 minutes last week. Thompson sought the meeting after his tribe lost round 1 in a legal fight to block Twin River and Newport Grand Casino from asking voters in November to approve table games there. Thompson said he wanted to talk about the legal obstacles his tribe faces in efforts to participate in casino gambling. He suggests that the Narragansetts partner with the state, but was not specific. Chafee said after the meeting he had nothing to announce, but fairness to the tribe and protecting revenue were important to him. The Northern Cheyenne tribe plans to distribute checks for $2,000 each to more than 10,500 enrolled members, with part of a settlement from the federal government over mismanagement of money in tribal trust lands. The tribe received $50 million and estimates that it has distributed slightly more than $21 million to members on August 24th and 25th in Lame Deer. The Billing Gazette reports that tribal officials have not decided what to do with the remaining $29 million. The tribe was one of the 44 in the United States that filed a lawsuit against the U.S. government over money lost in mismanagement accounts and royalties from natural resource development. The lawsuit was settled in March for $1 billion. The tribal suit is separate from a $3.4 billion class action lawsuit over individual trust funds. As a 2-year-old girl lay dead in the closet of a South Dakota home, another child invited 2 young neighbors over to take a look. The adults in the home who were binging on drugs didn't call 911 until some 14 hours later, according to the police. Taylor Conoyer, 21, and Lori Conoyer, 29, are charged with failing to notify police of the death and 5 counts of child abuse related to other children who live in the home with them. The couple is accused of using sleeping pills, methamphetamine, and marijuana during the day and a half in July when the child's death still hadn't been reported. They are the first people charged under a South Dakota law passed earlier this year that says a parent, guardian, or a caretaker who knowingly fails to report a child's death within 6 hours could face a felony charge punishable up to 5 years in prison. The South Dakota couple who were caring for the toddler but were not her parents pled not guilty last week to the charges at a hearing in Charles Mix County Court in Lake Andes. The Shakopee Mdewakanton tribe has presented a $1.5 million check to the city of Taunton, Massachusetts, the first of what could be many payments for infrastructure improvements needed to build a $500 million casino in the city. The payment is for pre-mitigation costs and was required to be paid within 30 days of the tribe winning legislative approval for the compact negotiated between the tribe and Governor Deval Patrick. The tribe has agreed to pay the city $33 million in upfront infrastructure payments and as much as $13 million a year to help the city with public safety and other costs associated with hosting a casino. Those payments don't begin until the casino opens. Mayor Thomas Ohoya Jr. says he's excited about the opportunity for economic development and job creation there. The wild rice beds in northern Wisconsin are nearly ready for harvest, but aerial surveys by agricultural observers show the wild rice crop isn't looking that great this year. Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission biologist Peter David in Odena said a warm spring triggered early germination and heavy rain did some damage afterwards. David said while a few scattered beds look good, the overall crop looks fairly poor, especially in northwest Wisconsin. He tells Wisconsin Public Radio News that some beds in east central Minnesota may be in even worse shape as well. And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank you for joining with us and coming back again soon.